Donald Trump is honestly more bothered by the coverage of him losing it a little or having gaffes than I necessarily thought he would be, because Biden is just like leading the charge in that area. So Trump, I feel like he's slipping under the radar in terms of his mental acuity, and the poll numbers bear that out. Something like 86% of Americans, which is a huge proportion, think Biden is too old for a second term. And then that number is in the 60s when you look at Donald Trump. Even though they are...
Room for improvement on that.
Yeah, there's room for improvement. And he seems to be a little bit perturbed by it, even though they're only a few years apart in age. And Trump has other issues with his brain outside of the age thing, like lots of weird stuff going on up there himself. This is him responding to this one time, the criticism of how he called Nikki Haley Nancy Pelosi multiple times. He was speaking at a rally yesterday in South Carolina, and this is his explanation for why he confused those two names, or he uses a different word for he uses interposed, right? He says it like 17 times.
When I say Barack Hussein Obama is the president of the United States, meaning there's a lot of control there, because the one guy can't put two sentences together. So I say Barack Hussein Obama. Remember Rush used to go Barack Hussein Obama. You go Barack Hussein Obama. But he'd do that. Rush. Do we miss Rush? Yes. But when I say
rest in peace,
that Obama is the president of our country, they go, he doesn't know that's Biden. He doesn't know. So it's very hard to be sarcastic. When I interpose, because I'm not a Nikki fan and I'm not a Pelosi fan, and when I purposely interpose names, they said he didn't know Pelosi from Nikki, from Tricky Dicky. He didn't know. I interpose, and they make a big deal out of it. I said, no, I think they both stink. They have something in common. They both stink. And remember this, when I make a statement like that about Nikki, that means she will never be running for vice president. She will never be running for vice president. Remember that.
No, I will never pick you, Nikki. Someone told him the word interpose, and he just ran with that. His first Hussein. I remember those days when Fox News said Obama's middle name gratuitously all the time. It's like, we get what you're doing. Okay, that first explanation, I don't remember that. That makes sense to a degree, if that's what he's trying to say, that Obama's the true puppet master behind Biden. It's a bit of a departure from the typical Soros or just the globalists, aka the Jews, that the right likes to engage in. But the Nikki, what is he talking about with interposing Nikki Haley and Nancy Pelosi? You're trying to say that Nancy Pelosi is pulling the strings behind the Nikki Haley campaign in the same way, like buddy, I mean, you're really stretching.
They're two women. Don't you understand? They're two women.
They're two, right. They must be working
he's all
together.
over the place. He's always had a real problem with staying like on the like sticking to the topic of what he's trying to talk about. And this he's all over the place. We go from Obama to Biden to Nikki Haley to Nancy Pelosi to he throws in Rush Limbaugh. Like, he's all over the place.
Yeah, he is. Do we have that clip of him talking about Nikki Haley? And Bradley's pulling that up because I want to just fact check Trump a little bit here. Was he making this big kind of poetic point about how really we live in a one-party system and all these folks are working together behind the scenes, and Nancy Pelosi is really Nikki Haley and Nikki Haley is really Nancy Pelosi? Was he making some sort of meta point about American politics? I'm going to give Bradley a second to try to pull that up, but he has it. He's got a brief one. This was this is from a news report on it, so we'll okay. We'll check this out here.
Nikki Haley, did you know they destroyed all of the information, all of the evidence, everything, deleted and destroyed all of it, because of lots of things. Like Nikki Haley is in charge of security. We offered her 10,000 people, soldiers, National Guard, so whatever they want. They turned it down.
So he is clearly there.
The truth is,
to,
I got to say
Nancy Pelosi.
about this age discourse is that both of them have been probably falsely accused of mistaking or overinterpreted as losing it, and both of them are also disintegrating between our eyes. And also, this is entirely irrelevant to who people should be voting for. Like, what world are we living in where this is all I'm just thinking back to my Joe Rogan and Aaron Rodgers conversations. Like, yeah, they're both too old. Can we talk about something real? Who gives a shit who is old? FDR was fucking old. He was very decrepit. He was also probably the best person to be voting for in all those elections.
Right.
Like, this is
No,
infantile.
I agree with
No,
you,
I'm
but the
not.
public doesn't agree.
Exactly. I'm not mad at you, Emma.
Yeah.
I'm saying, like, the just like the way that this discourse is playing out, it's like serious. I mean, I know not Joe Rogan's not serious people, but you'll see this on like the cable shows too. Like, this is a serious thing to discuss. It's like if you're an infant.
Well, what's interesting is like people say that we're still not far away from conceiving of our government in the terms of like kings and queens and
Right.
things like that. I mean, that's basically what we've transposed onto our presidential election. Whoever is president is much, much more than their like individual personhood, right? They are the coalition of thousands of government officials that they bring into office, that they put in the State Department, that they put in the Department of Homeland Security, they put in the Education Department. Like, it is not just the figurehead, the king, it is the people that are in the administration and the party that it empowers. So that is the smarter way to think about things. But the problem is, like, Biden is freaked out about the age stuff. That's why he did the emergency press conference, and not about the genocide that he's enabling. No. When I heard emergency press conference, I was like, damn, are we going to get a ceasefire? No, he did that just to dispel notions that he forgot some dates, because he must have some internal polling that says this is the biggest issue.
Yeah.
And obviously it is.
And it is it's not just to the American people, it's also to the administration.
Right.
There's a lot of ego at play here, especially when it comes to Trump. And, no one wants to be the next George W. Bush. Like, it's easy to forget that a big part of like the characterization of Bush's presidency was how often he misspoke and how dumb he was and how he couldn't read. And Trump would way rather you believe that he's just like evil mastermind. Same with like the Elon Musk type, like an evil mastermind who's like making all these mistakes on purpose to lower your guard in order to like pounce at the last moment, and not just some like, doddering old man, which is totally fine. Obviously, a lot of people lose their mental acuity as they get older, especially when you don't have a really mentally tough job, like neither Biden or Trump seem to. But it just is what it is. That's not what makes them bad for America. What makes them bad for America is their politics. Right. Or rather, are their politics.
Yeah. And so I would love for that not to be the focus as well, but it is.
It is troubling, though, a little bit. I will admit.
It's troubling, definitely.
Visually, but like, I don't necessarily, as somebody who has lived in America their whole life, see the difference between like all their president who is making life worse for the majority of Americans financially and socially and culturally, and an American president who is not all there doing it. People like gesture to like, well, he's in charge of the nukes. Like, you can't just launch the nukes unilaterally. Like, sorry to like, break the news. Like, oh, Biden can't just be like, let's launch the nukes tomorrow and they'll go launching. That's not how it really works.
Yeah.
What I think is more important is like the fact that Biden's age is clearly influencing his foreign policy as it relates to Israel. I mean, he's stuck in 1973, having an emotional conversation with Golda Meir about why Israel is reparations for the Holocaust, but like, let's put aside the fact that it's at the expense of millions and millions of Palestinians, and why is Germany not bearing the reparations for the Holocaust in this way? Big question.
I don't know if he would have a different political agenda when it comes to Israel if he were younger or more mentally fit. He might be able to disguise it better. I think that a lot of what would be going on is that he would be more vocal about the kinds of leaks that you see in the news every so often of like, oh, behind the scenes, Biden's calling Netanyahu an asshole, and he's, he's annoyed by how he's not conducting the war in a more public friendly manner. But that wouldn't be true. He would still not be using any real leverage.
I don't know about that, Brandon. I rarely ever disagree with you. I just feel that. I mean, it makes it spicy, right? I just don't know about that. I do. I mean, Kamala Harris is leaking the Politico that she disagrees with Biden on this. Like, and she's the equivalent of what his politics represented from, but she's just a little bit younger. There is a big shift in generations in perception of Israel and like what the state really means to the region.
I mean, maybe, and I'll grant you this definitely, that, the wind is definitely shifting a different direction. And Biden, as he seems to get older, seems to be more intransigent in his ways and gets very sort of like belligerent when you question them. And so maybe if he were younger, he would be more open to the fact that like the majority of Americans, more specifically majority of Democrats in his own party, are not in favor of this. I think it's easier for Kamala Harris to, be leaking those sorts of things, to be publicly trying to distance herself from these sorts of things as she's trying to carve out a political career from herself apart from Biden, after Biden. From a political standpoint, I think it's a smart move. I just don't know how much we can believe that if she were in power right now, she would be making different decisions. Look at John Fetterman. He's still out there acting and showing his ass about this. So I think, Democrats have been beholden to Israel, not just because of AIPAC money, but because of how they want to perceive themselves in the neoliberal order as being like pro-minority. And Israel accessed this kind of like litmus test for how you present yourself that way, because you can pretend that you're a friend of all, not just Jewish people, but all oppressed people if you are simply good for Israel. Well, even though no one really sees them that way, especially not now.
Well, Obama had a different posture towards Netanyahu. I mean, Obama was more aggressive towards Netanyahu. I do think his whiteness plays into it and his perception of the world.
I think Obama's a better politician. And I think Obama, is way more concerned and able to be concerned about his legacy in terms of that. I'm not disagreeing with you. I think that if Biden was all there, maybe he would be more concerned about what this means for his legacy. But I think it's, it's hard to tell.
I mean, according to reports, Biden even undermined when they were all working for the Obama administration. Biden even undermined Hillary Clinton's position on this.
Yep.
When he was hanging out with Netanyahu over in Israel, like, she apparently drew like a red line for Israel, and Biden said, "She's bluffing" to Netanyahu, telling him not to worry about it.
Went around the president and the Secretary of State.
Yeah. I mean, it's clear that this is not a winning issue for Democrats. This is not a thing that like Democrats are going to be able to win on, except for in a few like very, Israel friendly districts. And, I think there's still just residual fear that an AIPAC funded candidate might take you down in the primaries in some places. But the win, I think I said before, it's clearly blowing in a different direction. And maybe we'll see, and I think it would have been unthinkable even 10 years ago, but we'll see that just becoming the dominant position in the Democratic Party, not just amongst the voters, but amongst politicians, once it's just way too clear and way more clear that this is just not the winning side of the issue. Which, again, even if it were the winning side of the issue, they should still be willing to stand up on it because it's just the right thing to do.
Yeah.
I'll just say people are mad at me because I said FDR was old. Like, FDR was sickly and he died in office. Like, that's the point I was making.
I think that was
it's irrelevant. I don't know. I just think like, yes, I think like it would have been better if he was healthy, and it's a problem that he wasn't. I think all things being equal, you want your leader to be healthy. But I just think like it's such a dodge. It allows people who have shitty politics to have a conversation about it. I'm sorry. I think the focus on it is a real problem and going to continue to be.
I would vote for FDR's ghost before I vote for
yeah. No, I mean, I would literally vote for an inanimate object that was a Democrat, that then there would be Democrats in the White House.
A process behind.
Right.
Yeah.
I would vote for, like a stick that had a big,
a dog. Like some towns elect their dog as mayor.
Yeah, exactly. I would vote for any.
It's not actually doing the work. There's other people there.
Yeah, but if the dog was a dog that like would strong arm Democratic senators and call them out to be like, this guy doesn't want to pass the PRO Act, I'd be like, good boy.
That's the problem.
Good boy.
The problem is the outcome.
I would vote for Biden's dog, the one that keeps biting Secret Service.
Exactly. Commander Biden.
Also, it's notable, that Bradley assumes that dog president would be a man, just because.
Even though, as a father of two daughter dogs, of two women dogs, I resent the implications.
Resent the implications.
Two women dogs? Your dogs?
As a father of two women dogs.
I would prefer a cat, but certainly if it had to be a dog, there are certain breeds of dogs. This doesn't sound racist. There's certain breeds of dog I would not be willing to vote for. I would not vote for a golden retriever. I just don't respect.
That's one of my
that.
dogs, Brandon.
Golden retrievers are totally Republican coded.
They are
Yeah,
so
of course.
Republican coded.
Yeah,
All of them are so
yeah.
Republican coded. Even mine.
Would out yourself, Bradley. But I would be willing to vote for maybe a Shar-Pei.
Sharpay would be so good.
Yeah, something cute, but not like weird. Not like too cute.
Okay, I mean,
Cute but firm.
No poodles.
chihuahuas.
Beast of strength.
No,
No
no
Shih Tzus?
meme dogs. No meme dogs.
I mean, I would only vote for a rescue dog or potentially a mutt because I believe in multiculturalism and I'm not a race essentialist
So
like
my other
Brandon.
dog. My other dog. That would work.
All right, well, I'm glad we buttoned things up with the serious issue at hand here. Calling
How
from
old is the dog?
205 area code.